Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of iZombie. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, the first case actually involves, it's actually kind of interesting what this case ended up being because it kind of spans over 20 years. Essentially, a girl named Lori Beth has basically been in a coma for 20 years and finally dies, and it's basically because something was tampered with in her makeup and she had an allergic reaction to it. And, for the longest time, this woman named Vilma was the suspect because she was also in like the Miss Universe competition with her. And then it turns into a situation of Vilma has now subsequently since, Lori's died. It's like, no, I didn't do this. And so obviously Liv has to eat Lori Beth's brain, and obviously she kind of has that response of just like, oh, what I want. It's like, oh, she kind of gets like all motivational speech, like almost everything she says is almost like, oh, she's on the stage giving a response and everything like that. I love at one point when she kind of gets like her murder board. It's almost kind of cute and adorable, and like her board for figuring everything out in the case. I thought that was kind of neat. I even love the conversation she has with Clive at one point, and she's like, oh, that's so ironic. Clive's like, that's not really ironic. She's like, yeah, it is. And he's like, define ironic. And she's like, ironic. It's like, ironic. And he's like, oh, we'll agree to disagree. I love that. But I was thinking what it was. I think it's just like the aesthetic, just like the earrings and the sweater and everything. Like, I don't know, like it was a very cute look for Liv. I don't know why. It just kind of stood out. I'm like, oh, it just aesthetically, it just looked cute on So that's where my mind was at with that. But it's actually a very complicated and actually ultimately even sadder case when you actually break everything down. Because obviously you have all these different suspects. Because obviously even Vilma had her issues like with Lori, like sabotaging her. Was that her? Yeah. Well, no, I think she had said some nasty stuff to another girl in the competition that already sabotaged her, but she was like, if I sabotage her once, why would I go down that route again? So there was suspects, obviously anyone that would probably be gunning for her in that situation, but the sad truth is that it turns out her mom is the one behind all this, Gail, because essentially her mom wanted her to win it, because it's like she deserved it, she practiced so hard. The reason why she kind of lost points is during like a flute thing, she kind of messed up a little bit, but her mom was like, she had done it over and over again. Obviously, it's just like she messed up this little bit and she wasn't going to win for it. It's like she deserved to win more than anyone. And the second runner-up in that case was going to be Vilma. And so she went to sabotage Vilma by messing with her makeup. But Lori was trying to get into her makeup room, but it was locked because at the time someone else was kind of shacking up using her room. So I think that was what they were saying, the reason why. Nevertheless, she used Vilma's makeup. And like I said, no one would have known she had the allergic reaction she did to it. And it ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, led to her death. And that's so sad because her mom just did that for her, and so obviously it's even harder for her because like it's been weighing on her for the past 20 years. It's actually kind of interesting how they went about getting a confession, because it turns out Vilma's very good at like crying on command and everything like that, and so that kind of plays into the case. Like, oh, because I like that because they introduced it early on in the episode. I would think like while you're being talked to by Clive and stuff like that, you wouldn't want to show that you can fake cry on demand. To be fair, Liv was asking about it, but also to be fair, she kind of talked about the fact that she wanted to kind of be like an actress and stuff, so. But I just thought that would kind of look bad, but ultimately that ended up being the case. Like the moment I see Clive going after her at the end of the episode, I'm like, all right, she's going to fake crying to make Gail, admit what she did, because she lied and said that she was there recording the whole competition the entire time, but during the recording you can actually see her sneaking away around the time that the makeup was tampered with. So they didn't have enough evidence. They just had to get her to confess, and she did, because it was weighing on her just knowing that what she did. She, like I said, was just meant to give like Vilma a rash, but once again didn't know her daughter was allergic to it, didn't even know her daughter was going to do that. It's just sad circumstances led to that situation playing out the way it did. And since we're on the subject of Liv, let's kind of focus on her dealing with the complicated thing of like, obviously she's looking after her dad, trying to get him sobered up and everything. And to be fair, I was like, okay, I thought she was sending him somewhere to get sobered up, and that like, oh, like when they're talking and everything, that he was faking like, oh yeah, I'm here getting sobered up when I'm not. No, it turns out like he's at home and stuff like that. I guess it's a program you go to during the day. I guess it's kind of like an AA meeting. Like you go there, you talk, and then you kind of sober up on your own. I thought that might have been the situation, but maybe it's like people come to check out, whatever the circumstances may be. I was actually kind of surprised about that, but obviously she's trying to, for her, it's like, obviously she can't even call Martin dad just because it's like, yeah, obviously he hasn't really earned that right yet. But it gets complicated when Liv's mom and Evan show up. That took me by surprise. I was like, are we going to see Evan and all? It's like, boom, yes. It's like, dude, once again, surprising me that we're bringing that storyline back full force. And it kind of makes sense too, especially when we're dealing with their dad and everything. And so obviously, like, and her mom kind of has to say snarky stuff. You're like, oh, you didn't have to say it like that. Because for her, it's like the fact that she wants Liv to sneak Evan out of, town so he can get treatment for his condition because it's getting worse, so... For Liv, it's like, it's a complicated thing, like her coyote sneaking people in and out. It's a very dangerous thing, like, people could die like crossing, and she never want to put her family members in that danger. But obviously, like her mom was like, the fact of the matter is, don't you think, I could have found other means if there was a way? Like, if I could do this on my own, do you think I'd really be coming to you? It's like, that's a little snide remark to have towards a person you're literally coming for help. But then Liv's like, she can always turn him into a zombie. But it's like, no, like the fact of the matter is, I want him to have some form of a normal life and everything, which is ironic. I guess that's the whole point too, because it's like, now that it's all out in the open and stuff like that, she can scratch Evan. Like before she was, to be fair, that's why Liv didn't do that. She wanted him to have a normal life and everything, and it's like, obviously she ended up getting chastised for it and everything, and that ended up being a big issue, fallout between her mom, and her brother. So it's just kind of interesting to see that kind of come back in that shape or form, and maybe that's why they also kind of put that there, because also that's what she does as Renegade. She helps sick people, but some. Obviously, her mom didn't appreciate the fact is, it's like, oh, your dad's here. Not only did I tell you all the terrible things about him, you still sought him out. The fact is, you're willing to help him and not your brother trying to guilt trip her in it. And she's like, the fact that it matters, I'm not choosing sides. I want to help as many people as I can. Like, that's the whole reason why she's doing this Renegade thing. It isn't just about her. This is about helping everyone, zombie and human alike, and especially making sure that she's able to help the people she cares about, So she's willing to help out Evan and everything. And I just thought that was kind of neat, because when it's all said and done, Evan and her mom do thank her, because it's like, yeah, because the fact of the matter is, you are trying to make peace, with this whole situation, so they understand why she's doing what she's doing. So I thought it was kind of neat. Like, I was like, oh man, that's a rough spot. But then, like, Liv seeing what she did, I thought it was kind of pretty neat to see, like, things between the family. Like, at the end of the episode, we see them sneaking out of Seattle. So I thought that was kind of pretty neat in that regard. Another aspect kind of tied together with that, I think it's pretty neat, is like Martin obviously talking to Peyton. That leads to an interesting conversation, because it's like, oh yeah, you're mayor, acting mayor. It's got to be complicated dealing with this whole aspect of like, oh yeah, there's, humans and zombies relationships being bad. But then it turns out like, for her, it's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, she believes things can get good. Why? That things can be better, because she looks at her friendship with Liv. Her best friend is a zombie. So it's like, the fact is, if things between her and Liv can be as powerful as they are, she has hope for the rest of the city. And at the same time, she also says that sweet thing of like, it also doesn't hurt to have like your best friend be the best zombie in the world, and they hug and everything. I'm like, that's so goddamn adorable. It's like, dude, it's so beautiful. And even to the point you can see it kind of melting Martin. Now that kind of took me by surprise. That's what I'm curious about. I think Martin, in certain regards, might have a shift in heart, because he sees what Liv is going after, rather than going like the more full force way he's handling things. Because it's like, essentially him and Dolly are going about things the same way. They're just obviously on opposite sides of it. They're going like the more hand-fisted way, whereas Liv is going with Liv, Peyton, and Major are all going, kind of hand-in-hand type of situation. So, but I just thought that was kind of a beautiful moment in itself. But like see that it is affecting him. Like, it makes him go, huh, like, it isn't just a far-fetched dream of like, oh, zombies and humans getting along. This is a great example of it. And for him, it's probably an example of like, oh, this is what Liv does. She took, like, she's able to cultivate this type of relationship that if anyone could do it, she could. I even like that conversation later on, because even Liv is able to kind of let her guard down and even refer to him as dad, but he's like, maybe one day there'll be a situation where we're both on opposite sides, and he's like, the fact of the matter is, let me be there for you. And she's like, but you won't have to worry about it. Things won't get that way. That's the whole point of us doing this, so that things don't get that bad. And he's like, I hope they don't. So it's interesting too, because obviously his whole utopium addiction, like, until they brought it up, I'd completely forgotten about that being a part of Major's story at all. I was like, oh wow, I'd completely forgotten about that. But that was kind of interesting. So that's tied in there. Obviously, everything that Dolly is up to. I mean, it ties into Major's story. The whole situation of, oh yeah, like trying to track down the general's daughter, finding out. Like, at first, because there's like social media to make it seem like she's still active and stuff like that, but that's just Dolly pretending like, oh, but still having them starved out and everything. And I'm like, the moment I saw them kind of starved out, like kind of regressing, losing their humanity, I'm like, she's going to starve them out so they attack people, and lo and behold, that's her plan. And that's the sick, twisted thing about Dolly. But for her, it's like there are sacrifices necessary, even if a few people have to die in the grand scheme of things. We're stopping zombieism, and which I'm like, you're going to nuke your entire city, but do you think that's the point? It's like, if we die, so be it. If it means wiping out all the zombies that exist in the world, then I'm willing to sacrifice myself in this entire city. That's what the dead enders represent. Is that what that's supposed to be? Because I'm like, you're literally putting yourself in a situation to be nuked, you know? So I'd assume that's it. Like, I guess for them, it's like, we're doing this for the rest of the world type of thing, which is like, it goes beyond where you even thought they were willing to go. Like, obviously they were causing issues before, but now to see that they'd go to this extreme of lengths is insane. I also love that like Donnie and Darcy got involved in everything, and also they're such a cute couple. I mean, obviously they got to run through things quickly because she doesn't have much time, her bucket list and everything. But I love them being all cute and adorable. It's like, oh, because also it's like the first time you've seen. I think Donnie's never been in a relationship the entire show. It's the first time he's in a relationship. It's actually kind of sad. You find out like, yeah, to think about, Blaine was in a relationship before Donnie, technically too, the whole Al situation. I mean, that was more so her using him, but he kind of liked her. You know, maybe on some level she kind of liked him, but it was more so her digging against him. But obviously, like the whole Blaine and Peyton thing, to be fair, that was him lying. You know, Darcy and Donnie don't have to worry about it because everything's kind of up front. But I love them being like, oh, it could be so cool to help out with this, because they're trying to deal with the dead enders, and they track one down and they chase her as she tries to jump across the to the next building. Sally ends up falling to her death. And I love it. It's like, oh, he's like, you should handle this because, you examine crime, like, that he's the right guy to handle this, like, do some crime scene investigation. And he's like, did you check her for like ID or something? And then Darcy and like Donnie look at each other, and Donnie's like, wow, you're really good at this, Major. And even to the point, like, it's like, oh, when they first showed her, Major, her body, like, Darcy's like, sorry. It's like, dude, I literally told you not to get involved. I thought things could have gone bad for them, but it's like, hey, things kind of worked out for them. But it's just kind of cute that they went on their little undercover adventure like that. I thought it was kind of pretty neat. But, sadly, at the end of it all, like Major, they weren't able to get to them in time, and Major had to kill both of them. Because now I see it's not even just about necessarily raising tensions between zombies and humans. I'm sure it does that, but you see Dolly's recording everything too, so it's meant to be a video to show like, oh, General, look, oh my god, your daughter, oh, it's so sad, she's dead. So there's that whole complicated situation. So now he has no more reason not to nuke the city now. So it's just like layer upon layer. It's once again just Dolly is just evil. Once again, putting regular people in danger, people who didn't sign up for the dead enders. Sure, they signed up for this whole thing, but for you to do that, that's appalling, so, and you feel bad for Major because, he knew what it meant to put her down, but also at the same time, he didn't want to. Well, it makes you wonder, probably more so the greater good of like, oh, trying to keep her alive so that city doesn't get nuked, but it's like, especially in the state she's in right now, you're better off putting her down because, there's no coming back from that once you go on feral like that, so it was a mercy killing anyway, so that in itself is going to complicate things. Obviously, Martin's got his plans and motions and stuff like that, and obviously Liv was like, oh, hopefully it won't come to this, but sadly it's come to that, so now it's going to be a thing of Liv having to choose a side when it all comes down to it. But Liv's always going to choose the side she's always chose, the one in the middle, representing both humans and zombies, like, because people she care about are on both sides of the fences, and she's trying to make sure everyone comes out of this alive, smack dab in the war between two different groups. Obviously, her dad's leading one group, the zombies, and her dad leading the extremist zombies, and Dolly leading the extremist humans, so there's that complicated situation. And on top of all that, there's the whole Ravi and Peyton situation. Them, was it Pavi? And it's like Ravi really being like, oh, I really like that nigga. I love that they, like, because obviously they're trying to track down Beanpole Bob. They go to the evidence. I love the dude being like, oh yeah, like he's checking Ravi up and down, being like, whoa, ID, did you sign the form? Because it's like the due diligence of kind of like following the rules about the whole thing. But then Peyton shows up and he's like, oh, Madam Mayor and stuff. He's excited. And Ravi's almost like, what the hell is this? What's up with you changing your tune all of a sudden? For him, it turns out he's also a big fan of the show iZombie, so that's pretty dope too. And he's like, oh, I've watched all the episodes and stuff like that. So there's some part of my brain that also makes me think like, and was it a full season, 22 episodes, or did they do kind of a cheeky thing and make it 13 episodes like most seasons of iZombie is? Probably that's R would probably be the proper word in that sentence. Regardless, it was just something in the back of my mind I was thinking about. But nevertheless, every step they come to getting closer to this situation, because it's all about tracking down the utopium. It turns out this particular case, it's like, oh yeah, it turns out like the cop involved in it was dirty and he's also dead. So it's like, okay. Then he talked to AJ, and I love that whole conversation, like where Robbie's trying to act hard and stuff in front of AJ, but he's like, but he will be handcuffed, right? And Peyton's like, all right, me and AJ's got a relationship. We'll talk this out. And then it's like, you know, they're saying stuff, and he's like, yeah, it's like, oh, so you had the creator of, you know, this utopian murder. And AJ's like, whoa, did I say that? She's like, dude, this is off the record. And he's like, oh yeah, we had a murder, super dead. So there's that. Then they try to track down the utopian, because it turns out the utopian that the AJ and his crew got was actually just water, so someone else got it before. It's like, oh, it was Donnie. Turns out it wasn't Donnie, it was his twin brother Scotty. Once again, that storyline of him having a twin is getting so much play, because once again, I brought it up last episode, I completely forgot about Scotty. I'm so sad that I forgot about that. But then it's like, oh, they break into Donnie's mom's place, because that's most likely where he stashed things at, and lo and behold, oh yeah, they didn't know that Blaine was living there, because Donnie didn't give them the warning. I guess he was just so caught up in everything he wasn't thinking. I love that, like, you have Ravi, what was it? He complimented a vase or something like that. And then it's like, oh, like, look at this place that you've fallen so far down to, Blaine, or something like that. I know I'm like super paraphrasing, but Blaine was like, the fact of the matter is you complimented something here, so no tape backsies, you know? So, and it's almost like Robbie almost looked defeated. But it's like, okay, Blaine's willing to help out if you hook him up with some stuff. And Peyton says, sure. And obviously, like, Blaine's trying to be like, oh yeah, the fact of the matter is, I always love dealing with you, despite everything that's happened between us. Because that's, once again, the twisted thing. He really, really actually liked Peyton. He was kind of trying to change for Peyton. Like, it gave him a fresh start and everything. So, but regardless. But sadly, the utopium that he ends up revealing to them is empty. But Peyton kind of gets the last laugh, because it turns out, oh yeah, she actually got fired because her space selling the Space Needle, the rights to the Space Needle, was bogus. People found out about it. She got fired for it. So she's going to be forced to kind of resign, which in turn means that everything she promised Blaine, he gets nothing in the end. So it's kind of nice, you know, nice and petty middle fingers to him. But then at the end, we have Ravi and Peyton discovering, wait, the dude who created all zombieism was Liv's dad, Martin. So it's like, okay, I doubt they're going to hide that from her, but that's going to be some big information to drop, because once again, they don't know that, like, yeah, even if he is the one behind all of this, they still don't know that. I'm sure that's going to come up, because Liv's going to be like, why didn't you tell me this? There's going to be that whole situation, because it's also going to be the thing of like, oh yeah, you were working Mr. Boss and everything. So it's going to be a whole thing. But she might be able to forgive that, but it might just be like, why didn't you tell me about it? But also, once again, they don't know about his other extracurriculars of, like, you know, the whole extreme zombie war he's waging, you know? So that's going to be a whole complicated thing in it. So it's so sad, because it's almost like, especially because the wound is getting deeper, because Liv is actually getting a good relationship with her dad too, so eventually that's going to shift. So it's going to be interesting to see where all this takes us going forward into the next episode. From what I was seeing, that there won't be an episode next Thursday. There will be one the Thursday after that, on the 11th, I believe. So do keep that in mind. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.